Imagine when you share your darkest hours, they become someone else's light. I'm Jennifer Lee, a global community storyteller, host, author, and survivor, guiding you through genuine, unfiltered conversations. Together, we break the silence, shatter stigma, and amplify voices that need to be heard. Each episode stands as a testament to survival, healing, and reclaiming your power. Listen to I Need Blue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite platform. Learn more at www.ineedblue.net. Trigger warning: I Need Blue shares real-life stories of trauma, violence, and abuse meant to empower and support. Please take care of yourself and ask for help if needed. Now let's begin today's story. I met my friend and today's guest, Michelle, while networking. I watched her walk around the restaurant, greeting friends, smiling, and handing out books to people eager to support her story. I was curious about this author and her journey. Today, we honor Michelle's daughter, Maddi. She died at the young age of 17 from shallow water blackout. We will discuss what shallow water blackout is. For years, Michelle dealt with grief and battling suicidal tendencies. Her everything, her best friend, her biggest advocate and cheerleader, and her precious baby girl were gone. The grief was debilitating. Finally, in 2023, she bravely decided to surrender to living. Since then, she has been committed to living. Yesterday, October 24th, I celebrated Maddie's 24th birthday with Michelle and a group of amazing people. We sang happy birthday, blew bubbles, ate cupcakes, hugged, celebrated, and supported two amazing women, Maddi and Michelle. Michelle has published a series of books about navigating loss and healing, and another insightful book about what not to say to someone grieving. We will discuss her books, and the links will be in the show notes. Michelle, thank you for being my friend, and welcome to the I Need Blue podcast.
Thank you back, and thank you for being my friend as well. I really do appreciate you.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we connected, for sure. I'd like to begin today's episode. Let's talk about Maddi, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I think, when I think about Maddi, I just think about the lessons that she left behind for me, the ways that she made a real impact on my life. One of the ways was just her sweet, gentle, loving Christian. She was innately Christian. She was born a Jesus follower, and I never really had to teach that to her. And in fact, she was always teaching that to me because we lived in Castle Rock, Colorado at the time. That's where I raised her. And we often had to drive into Denver for real estate meetings or whatever. If you've ever driven in Denver, the traffic is horrible. And, I was always in a hurry because that child was always late. So I was always in a hurry and rushing through traffic, and I'm, cussing someone out one morning. And she said, "Mom, you need to stop that. You have no idea what that woman has been through already this morning." She said she could have been beaten by her husband. You don't know. And now you want to make her life worse because of traffic? She was like, "That just doesn't make sense. You need to stop that, Mom." So little things like that, she was always putting me in check where life was concerned, or Christianity, or being the better person, or learning to live in the moment. She was diagnosed with cancer at 4.5 years old. She had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And It was hard for her. We did medicine 3 times a day sometimes, and at 4 and a half, I had to crush up her meds and try to hide them in something, which never worked. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but it tastes horrible. She would throw up over and over, and I would say, "Honey, we have to do it again. I'm sorry." But what she took away from all of the suffering was to live life at the fullest. Even at 7 years old, she was advocating for live in the moment, be happy we're here, be grateful for life, for every breath, and, God bless her. That I thought that would take her, the cancer, and she told me, "No, mom, that's never gonna take me, it's never coming back." Sure enough, it was not cancer that took her, it was the shallow water blackout. So, she was just always teaching me how to be a better person, and I think she still is from beyond now.
Yeah. It sounds like when she said to you, "No, I'm gonna beat this cancer," that she had some intuitive ways about her.
For sure. Yeah, it very much seems so. And even at the end of her life, because at the end of her life, she came to me and said, "Mom, I wanna drop out of school, I wanna move to California, and I wanna become famous. I wanna be a model, and I wanna be a YouTuber, and I wanna have my own fashion line." And I said, "Okay, let's go." There was something innately in both of us that knew we had to go to California then, and she died only 17 days after we got there.
Wow.
So, it was family night at the pool, and, I had barbecued some steaks, and we were eating, and they were swimming, and her and her friends were seeing who could swim the farthest underwater and, hold their breath the longest. She never made it to the other side. The problem with shallow water blackout is you don't realize that someone's struggling. You look over at them and you're like, "What are they doing over there?" Because they're just on the bottom of the pool. It looks like they're looking at something or they're just holding their breath or they're whatever. It doesn't look like there's a struggle going on, and it's very hard to determine that they're in trouble. And the problem with that is that you only have 2.5 minutes when you're drowning from shallow water blackout because you've expended all of your oxygen. You don't have any on board. And then your body's first reaction once you pass out is to breathe in, and you've got two lungs full of water, and that's why you sink like a rock. It's like I said, 2.5 minutes before you're brain dead. That is why it is a 96% fatality rate because you don't know it's happening and you don't have any time. 2.5 minutes is nothing.
So I cannot imagine the moments following when you realize, there's something wrong.
Well, to be honest, I was in the hot tub with my step grandson and his dad, my stepson, and Madison's boyfriend were in the pool with her. They started yelling, "Mom, mom, come quick, it's real, it's real." And they were pulling her out of the pool. So by the time I got to her, I could feel her above me. And it was the weirdest feeling I've ever had in my life. It was like the closest to heaven you can imagine being. It was very peaceful. It was all knowing. It was just really bizarre. And I really haven't, I don't think I've ever had any experience that like that since then or before then. But I could feel her and I knew she was gone and I knew she was in heaven and I knew she wasn't coming back. I knew it was over. But there was like the most peaceful feeling that I've ever had in my life at that moment. That soon left. Panic set in immediately. But I kept telling them, she's gone. And her boyfriend kept saying, "No, she's gurgling." And I said, "I know, honey. She's gone." "No, no, no, she's breathing. She's breathing." And I'm like, "Honey, that's not breathing. She's just aspirating now." And they tried to resuscitate her, which, by the way, is the most horrible thing you'll ever see in your life. Um, Over an hour, they beat up her body, and it was horrible to watch. That's where my PTSD came from, I think.
Yeah. I have a question when you said kinda felt her that she was in heaven above you. Do you feel like a part of your spirit went with her that day?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Part of my soul, a part of my heart, part of my whole being.
The connection. So when you said they tried to resuscitate her for an hour, was that you called 911 or was that
Yeah. Yeah, we called 911, and that's another thing, like, I could hear the sirens coming because we were near the highway, and the hospital was only about a mile or so away, I don't know, a few miles. Like, I could hear them for at least a mile, coming. And so, since then, I have triggers from sirens too because I could hear them, but I knew it was not gonna they weren't gonna make it in time. So then they tried to resuscitate by the pool for a while and then, of course, transported her to the hospital where we all went, and I had told her when she had cancer that I would never, ever leave her in the hospital. I would never leave her side. She was inpatient a number of times, and I never left the hospital without her. And, that was another thing that hit me hard, was having to leave that hospital without her. Yeah, it was a promise broken, you know? Not one I could do anything about, but it was a promise broken.
you know, I want to ask you this because from your perspective, it was a promise broken. But what if to Maddie it was a promise kept?
Yeah, I can see that, and thank you for saying that.
Of course, it's just it popped in my head. Maybe Maddie's talking.
I'd have whispered in your ear.
I truly think that's how she feels about it.
Thank you for saying that, I think I needed that.
Of course, of course. And I'm going to tell you to lean into that in your moments of feeling like you didn't do everything you could. Maddie says, "No, you did, Mom." So I think it's important you know that. And you can call me anytime and I'll remind you.
Thank I appreciate that.
Of course, of course. So this began a whole new way of living with loss, with grief.
PTSD.
Yeah. How did you cope with that? The support system you had? I know one of the books was very well written about what not to say to someone grieving. It's fascinating. But if you want to go into that a little bit right now, I think it would be appropriate.
Yeah, so, I mean, first, I just wanna say that all of the people that have been in my life and are not in my life anymore, I don't have any ill will or anger or anything like that. I understand that this is a grueling process, and not everyone can handle it. Not everyone can handle the emotions and the anger and the disparity and the just constant, I guess, dysfunction, you know, that comes with grief. And I don't know all grief. I know losing my daughter. That's what I know. I not that I haven't lost other people, but it just didn't hit me like this. Not that I was cold or calloused or anything like that. Life and death, it's all part of it, right? And I'm a logical person until this happened, and not not near as logical, although I am. There's like a side of me that's I get it. And I think that's the side of me that has pulled me up again. The emotional side of me pulls me down. But yeah, I have lost most of my friends that don't know grief. I still have a wonderful amount of Facebook friends that are very supportive. Okay. And I say Facebook friends because, we don't hang out. They don't come and sit with me when I'm bawling. They don't see me on the daily where I am going through the whole roller coaster of effects. But for other people, I know that it's exhausting for me to be in my mind and my body, but I know it's also exhausting for the people around me. And so my first book, can I say the name or no?
Yeah, I know. Please do. Please do.
My first book, Please Don't Say That Shit, and it is SH*T, so you have to look it up that way, was really designed for other people. I think that people that are grieving get a kick out of it because I am pretty raw and I'm pretty sarcastic and I'm angry. I wrote it at a very angry time. I had had my last straw. Some people that lived next door to Maddie and I for 10 years came through Vero Beach, and I was telling them my grief journey, and he got, I don't know if he just wanted to comfort me or he got uncomfortable or whatever, but he said, she'd want you to be happy, Michelle. And I said, Stan, she doesn't get a vote. She doesn't get a vote. She's in heaven. She's happy. She's fine. I have a mess to deal with. Not only did this open up pain from Maddisyn dying, but it opened up pain from my childhood that I had stuffed down so far. I didn't know that it existed anymore. I thought I'd already processed it. I thought I'd already forgiven. I thought I'd already moved on. That layer of onion was gone. And it really wasn't. So I had what's called CPTSD also, which is it's complex, it's chronic, it's from years of being traumatized over and over and over. That's something I'd never even heard that term before. But obviously, it makes sense that it exists, right? So, with all of this coming up and the amount of anger was just overwhelming. And I mean, I don't like to be around angry people either. I really don't. But I was one of them. So, writing that book helped me get all of that out. And it helped me say to the world, listen, there's things you should say and there's things you shouldn't say. Because it's really about the griever now. It's not about the person that's in heaven. It's not about the person that's all settled and they're all done. They're fine. They're fine. It's the person left behind that has so much to filter through and so much to go through. And you don't even know, like me, they could have had a horrible childhood and all of that comes out with their grief. And here we go. It's deep and complex and it's there and it's coming out this time. There's no stuffing it when you hurt this much. You just can't.
In regards to all of the things that you said were coming out, what one surprised you the most and was like, oh, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know I was going to experience this.
The suicidal stuff, wanting to die. I'd never been that person. And honestly, I had judged people that were suicidal and I thought it was selfish and wrong. And I think that's one of my bigger lessons too, is to not judge people anymore. Just, you don't know what they're going through. But it surprised me a lot that I could get to a point where I was planning my own death. I've just always been a happy-go-lucky, deal with it 24 hours, process it, brush it off, get up and go. And that's who I was before this buckled my knees.
Yeah. Can I ask, how did you get out of the mindset of I want to kill myself?
Well, the second book had something to do with that, and that one is Befriending My Grief Monster. After I wrote the one about, how to talk to us, then I wrote the one about how we get through this. And I swear it was God writing through my hands because I have to go back and read my book again. I've read it 4 or 5 times. I have to go back. When I get funky, I have to go back and read my steps again and read what works again and, you know, implement that in my life again because we get busy in life and we forget our scheduled things that help us be lovely human beings.
Absolutely. We forget to be intentional.
Yes, intentional, right. So that's kind of how it started. And then I also found ketamine therapy. Couldn't have done any of this without ketamine therapy. I started ketamine a year and a half ago, and then I wrote these books just a year ago. So I've probably been doing that for 6 months before my brain actually started working enough I could put 2 words together, which, it's all cyclical, right? I had the PTSD. I couldn't stand leaving the house. I couldn't stand what people were saying to me when I did leave the house. So that would trigger me. I isolated myself. Then I became so depressed that I was suicidal. And then I was so suicidal. It just was, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't get a grip on it. I couldn't make the cycle stop. Once I started ketamine therapy, it started breaking the cycle. It started healing my brain. The PTSD was less, the anxiety was less. I started to feel joy every once in a while again. I hadn't felt joy in, shoot, 3, 4 years, not even I couldn't even feel a moment of joy. I could feel a moment of, "Well, that doesn't suck," but I couldn't feel like, "Wow, this is awesome. Thank you, God." And that's a very, very different place.
Right. And the ketamine came from a doctor or a therapist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. By the way, and I say this many times because people say, "Oh, isn't that what Matthew Perry died from?" And I'll say it again right here. No, he died from drug addiction. Ketamine might have been the end all be all, but he died because he was using it inappropriately the way he did. So, anyway, that saved my life. So I have a very different feeling about ketamine than some people do, and I think it needs to be clarified.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for ketamine. And ketamine, it's something that when I feel like the dark cloud, the doom is coming, I can do a ketamine therapy session and journal about it. Another thing you want to do is be very intentional with what you're trying to heal and what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go in your brain and the outcome that you want. It's a lot of work and it's hard work. It's a lot of deep diving into your soul and your background and your history and your upbringing. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And I always have said, if you go to therapy and it's easy, you're at the wrong therapist.
that's right. Yeah. And, to be honest, I did have traditional therapy for a while and it helped. It was okay. It was traditional therapy. I also did EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprogramming. I don't know that it helped this time. It was online over the computer, like, a Zoom call almost or whatever the doctors do. And so maybe that was part of why it didn't work as well because I wasn't actually with her in the room. I don't know, but nothing helped me like ketamine therapy. So, and ketamine therapy literally did 10 years worth of therapy in like 10 months.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've never tried it, so I can't give a personal testimony on that. But what I appreciate about your insight as that part of the platform of my podcast is to provide resources because talk therapy isn't going to work for everyone. Like you said, the EMDR is not going to work for everyone. So I enjoy people that come on and share what has worked for them. And like you said, work with a therapist, a doctor, with anything, because I am not a doctor or a therapist. I'm just here to share options from people. One thing I found interesting is the order of your books because you wrote the first book you wrote was for other people. The second book you wrote was for you. Most people would probably do that backwards, right?
There was a straw that broke the camel's back that day, though. Stan opened me up, and thank you, Stan, because he probably helped the world. I had one too many things said to me. My book actually has on the left-hand side what someone has said and what my thought was in the moment, and thankfully, I didn't say those things most of the time and then why it doesn't work. And then on the right hand page, you have on the flip side what you can say to somebody who's grieving and why it works, why it's beneficial, why it builds a bridge between the two of you and helps, you know, a foundation form that is secure and loving and you can heal together. And I think we all have things to heal. So I really think that's important to do it together.
But yeah, absolutely. And I don't think the healing ever stops
No.
because when you think you've healed one thing and maybe you did, then it's life. You get curveballs. Whenever you deal with people, something new comes up. But it's really about finding the healthy ways
Yeah.
to get yourself better.
Another aspect of the healing for me was meditation because I had such high anxiety, so many triggers. Oh my gosh, so many triggers. And there's There's sirens around us all the time. I mean, I would hear them at my house and feel like they were coming to my house for miles, you know? Just one of my huge triggers is there's many. So, I would felt like I was triggered all the time, you know? So, meditation is huge, and I found this guy, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's amazing, and he talks about healing ourselves on a natural soul kind of level through meditation and the way we speak to ourselves and reprogramming our brains, self-talk and all of that. I mean, it's so important, you know. I used to wake up every morning and think, "Oh my god, I woke up again." And that was my first thought. And my second thought was, "Oh my god, Maddie's still dead." Then I'd be like, "Okay, well, I just have to get through one more day." That would be like setting myself up for a horrible day, traumatized day, for a day of doom and gloom and misery and depression and just wanting to die. So I had to change my morning routine, and I knew that. But I learned that through Joe Dispenza. I had to change my morning routine. So now I wake up, and before my brain gets too awake, I'll meditate and do something positive for my brain the first thing in the day. I like Deepak Chopra, and he has 21-day meditation challenges, which have also saved my life. You know, I did the 21-day challenge over and over and over, and I just start over again. And he talks about gratitude and being grateful for your day and having grace. And so hard to be grateful when you wake up thinking my daughter's dead. So that's something you have to force on yourself. You really do. You have to make a choice. It's a choice. And it's not always easy to make that choice. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to choose to be mad today because that's where I'm at, you know? So
It's about honoring your feelings, you know? Sometimes you can't always fight them because that's exhausting.
it is.
Yeah, sometimes you just honor them.
You have to. I feel like you have to schedule the honoring because it helps you to get it out, you know, to have that time and be able to honor your anger. And this is why I like smash rooms, right? Because you can schedule your anger release. I love these kinds of tools. I think they're amazing for healing, you know?
Never done it, but, you know, I'd probably be pretty good at it.
I think everyone would be, you know? Anyone that's got a little bit of anger anywhere, you know?
I love the scheduling. I haven't had anybody say that. Scheduling, you know, the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, honor your, emotions, especially somebody like me who's a little structured, you know? I am probably more committed.
Even if it's 15 minutes in the morning, or you take Tuesday off and you do a half a day, or of just self-care and honoring all of the feelings that come up and just let them come up, you know? Dig in with journaling. Journaling has helped me. Journaling is a huge part of why I'm better, you know, getting it out. And I say even if, because like I get my hand falls asleep, and so I can't always write anymore with a, you know, pen and paper. So I use my phone and blah 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 into my phone. Some of my books were written through me just speaking through my phone because I couldn't write anymore. I couldn't type anymore. I was like, ah,
Well, and that's something great to do when you're walking, because walking is good for depression and just getting out of the house and having that fresh air and the sunshine or the snow, depending on where you are.
I used to float on the pool and I did have my phone and I would just, you know, get in my floaty, have my little drink and my phone and just go to town. Just let it all out. Another thing I've really enjoyed is see, I moved to Florida from Colorado 3 years ago. Maddie's been transitioned for 6 now. So, I was pretty deep in my depression that first year, but the pool and the floating, oh my gosh, it helped me so much, and ironically, I mean, she drowned, so it was really weird. I was always scared of water. I didn't hate water, I hated being in water. I like being on the side of water, I love water when it's on the side, you know? But even our, trips, because after Maddie had cancer, she was like, "We need to travel and go somewhere and appreciate life and find joy and blah, blah, blah," right? So we travel, travel, travel. Always had to have the pool, the ocean, and the palm trees, wherever we went. It had to have those 3 ingredients. So after the first time or so, she would say, "Mom, get in the pool with me." And I'm like, "Honey, I don't like to be in the pool. It makes me pruny and I don't like it. I like to sunbathe, and then when I get hot, I get in, I dip, I get out. For all of the years that we traveled, we had to have a girlfriend go with Maddie so that she could have someone to play at the pool with, and I could be on the side of the pool. But ironically now, and it's weird because right after she drowned in that pool, I think it was the next day, or maybe it was 2 days later at the very most, that I went back to the pool and I sat on the side right where she drowned, and I had to make peace with the water because I knew if I didn't, I would never look at a pool again. And that's a memory of Maddie and mine that is our whole life. Something that has given us both peace, the pools and the water and the ocean. And she's a fish. She was a fish. She was a solid swimmer. I had to be friends with water again. And now I can soak in water for hours and hours, and the pruning never bothers me. I don't even know if I prune anymore. I don't even pay attention. I mean, it's really crazy how that changed for me completely.
Yeah. And that's amazing because some people like that is such a trigger to go back to where they had passed away and you were able to make friends with it. I really love the way that you put that. It's great. Let's talk a little bit about the shallow water drowning. I had never heard of it.
Yeah, me either. So basically, your body gets confused, your brain gets confused. Typically, when your oxygen level decreases, your carbon dioxide level increases, and that's what triggers your brain to say, "Hey, it's time to breathe." Well, and I don't know the scientific explanation of this. For some reason, the confusion happens, and as your oxygen level decreases, your carbon dioxide level keeps going down too. Okay, so you don't ever get that message to breathe, and that's what makes you pass out. I really highly recommend doing the research yourself because I understand it to some degree, but it's like me trying to, I don't know, speak German. You know what I mean? I don't know German. So please do the research and look for how to see the signs so that you know if it's happening in your pool, if it's happening to your child. That's really important to know the signs and then what to do as soon as you see them. Because, like I said earlier, you only have 2.5 minutes before they're brain dead. The buddy system is highly recommended. And if you're going to be holding breath, do it with a buddy that's not holding his breath at the same time, his or her. Do it with a buddy that's going to watch and make sure that you don't pass out. And then you switch. But you don't do it at the same time competing and not knowing what the other one's doing or if the other one's in trouble. That competition thing that has to stop. When there's no supervisor, it's and you don't think you have to supervise your kids when they're 18 and in the pool in 3 feet of water, you know? Then she could have stood up. 3 feet of water. But obviously, when you pass out, you can't do anything. So, it also happens in diving, and I honestly don't know though if it's more common or not. I would say though that those are the ones that are commonly called shallow water blackout. Maddison's autopsy said she drowned. So you don't really have solid statistics on how many drownings in a pool are shallow water blackout.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else you would like to share that maybe I have not touched upon today?
Well, I think I would probably want to go back to the suicide thing and just say, if you're so depressed that you don't want to live anymore, you want to take your life, first of all, no judgment. If you're not someone who wants to take their life, stop judging people that do because you just don't know their pain and you don't want to. Trust me, you don't want to know their pain. I would say if you are someone, just there's so many outlets, and there's hotlines, and there's people out there that really do care. And I know I've seen some uh, statistics on how many times, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but how many times it goes unnoticed because people get sick of hearing, oh, you're just talking. You don't really want to kill yourself. You just want attention. You just want someone to, feel sorry for you or whatever. That is not the case. And I can't tell you how many times I had to reach out to people and say, I really want to kill myself. I really do. I had to have somebody talk me off the ledge. I personally, most of the time, chose someone who's lost a child to talk me down off the fence because they can understand and they have empathy and they really understand what I'm going through. It's not like I'm telling someone I want to die that has never felt that before. That's the big thing. Find your lane. Find the people in your life that relate to you, that understand. Like, I mostly hang out with people that are grieving now because they get me and they don't say stupid stuff to me. They get it. That's where I've found comfort and healing and a place to fall.
Basically, find your tribe.
Find your tribe. Yeah. And look for it until you find it so that you do have that support because nobody wants to lose you. No mom wants to lose you. I get it too. I really, really, really get it. It's still very hard for me to want to live this day through. It's very hard for me to want to see this day through. I love nighttime when I get to go night night and shut it all off now. And sometimes I have to take days where I just shut it all off. But reach out to the people that get you, find them. They're all over the internet.
What I appreciate about you and all my guests is part of the reason that we are here today is to let others know that they are not alone.
Right.
Right. And I love all of the advice that you give them. And if you are listening and can relate to Michelle, she's part of your tribe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can find me on Facebook. I am Michelle C. Butler. And I do workshops with grievers. I like to call them healing workshops instead of grieving. I think a lot of the grief support groups are all about grieving and not about focusing on healing. Not that we don't sit and talk about things that are bothering us or whatever. It's not like I don't want to say the word complain, but you know what I'm saying. Like, there's some negative aspects to it. There's going to be. We're grieving. But I try to bring in some positive tools to use for the people that join us, so that we have some ways to heal. We have a Center for Spiritual Care here in Vero Beach where they allow us to use the space so people from all backgrounds, all religions, all whatever can come and join us and we can heal together. It's really nice. And we need more of those. So just start a group in your community and find a place to do it for free because that's what we need. We need to be a community and heal together. This is everywhere. We're not just select few that are grieving. It's a lot of people. There's loss of everything, loss of jobs, loss of parents, loss of spouse, loss of siblings. There's a loss of your memory. There's so many different losses that we all grieve. See where that takes you. That's helped me heal so much. Helping others has helped me heal so much.
I understand that. Michelle, thank you for being my guest today on the I Need Blue podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you giving me a voice today. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. This is Jen Lee with the I Need Blue podcast. You can find anything and everything about I Need Blue on my website, www.ineedblue.net. Please share this episode if there is somebody who you feel could benefit from this message. And remember, you are stronger than you think. Until next time.